Hey crew, it's Pitt, and I'm back with another Bible study. Today we are going to be back into the book of Revelation. But before we begin, if you are unfamiliar with me or what I am doing here, I hold some unconventional beliefs, and I am holding an unconventional Bible study, and it is highly recommended to begin in the beginning because it is easy to get lost and easily offended. For those who have been following along, we are in Revelation 12 because we left off in Revelation 11, and today we are going to be dealing heavily in allegory, I believe. I believe that this is telling us something that we are going to be able to see, and that it is going to be obvious, and this, in my estimation, runs at the same time as probably the trumpets, probably maybe the seals because a part of it, but probably the trumpets. But let's dig into the text and we're going to talk about it. And a great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed in the sun, with the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. She was pregnant and crying out in the pain and agony of giving birth. And then another sign appeared in heaven, a huge red dragon with 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 royal crowns on his heads. His tail swept a third of the stars from the sky, tossing them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, who was about to give birth, ready to devour her child, as soon as she gave birth. And she gave birth to a son, a male child, who will rule all the nations with an iron scepter. And her child was caught up to God and to his throne. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where God had prepared a place for her to be nourished for 1,260 days. So, let's get into it. There is a lot of videos that you can go watch on the Revelation 12 sign. It happened, according to many people, several years ago, and we have already seen this in the stars. If you happen to have this particular computer program where you can run forward, it's called Stellarium. There are others, but the one that was used in these videos for the most part was Stellarium. And you could fast forward and rewind in time and look at these things. You can turn on and off the atmosphere. And if you can turn off the atmosphere, then you saw the Revelations 12 sign, according to these videos, that the Virgo was by the sun and it had the moon at its feet, right? So the sun was over at the head of Virgo, and the moon was at the feet of Virgo, and the king planet was in the womb of Virgo for the gestation period of a human life, and then it pops out. Right? And that was the sign. That's what everybody thought was going to be the sign. I don't think so. But you are welcome to believe that. I think that we're not going to need a computer program to see the sign of God. I think that the sign of the coming of man, right? The sign of the coming of the Son of Man, or however you want to reference it, is this, right? Visions do not have to be continuous. They don't have to run from beginning to end. They can jump around. I believe that prophecy is a thing, and that you can do prophecy if you are dedicated enough to God. If you pray, fast, and meditate, you can receive visions from God, but that you can only understand them to the level of your understanding. This phrase here, "Oh, great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed in the sun." It does reference a woman, but the clothed part is a little iffy, right? It's mostly dealing with surrounding yourself with clothing, like putting on a cloak, right? You would swing it around your shoulders. But there is an alternative, and this is highly into speculation land, right? There's another way to look at this word as cast around. And for me, for what I am looking for in my beliefs, as a clearly visible sign in the heavens, and that we are going to see the sign, and it will be there for everyone. I believe that it will be visible during the daytime, not just at night, right? You may be able to see it at night depending on the curvature of the globe, but more than likely this sign will be visible in the daytime. Everybody's going to be able to see it. It's not going to be anybody special saying, "Oh, there's a sign up there, you don't see it, but I do." There's not going to be any need to go to a program and turn off the atmosphere, because if God wants you to see a sign, you're going to see the sign. It's not going to need you to take additional steps with human technology to get it done. It's going to appear bright and bold, or it did not appear at all. That's my beliefs. It doesn't have to be your beliefs. I believe that this woman clothed in the sun that is being referenced here is the sign, and that it is going to show up in the sky, and we're going to see it, and it's going to go to us around the sun. It's going to go from one side of the sun to the other, and it tells you the hope that is coming from one direction and not the other. But I believe it's going to go around the sun. I believe that's what's going to happen, and it's going to be entirely me speculating, right? The moon under her feet, the moon's probably going to be visible. It is often visible during the daytime. It doesn't have to be some miraculous thing, but it can be. And a crown of 12 stars on her head. 12 is symbolic for the 12 tribes of Israel. It's symbolic for the 12 disciples of Jesus. It is important for the 12 apostles. It is important as well for the 12 zodiacs. I know there's 13 and one of them's not counted, but with the 12 that we go with, right? A huge red dragon with 7 heads is another sign that appears in the heavens. And this is, again, not going to be allegory. If it is prophecy and we are to see a sign, it is not an allegorical sign. It is going to be something that appears to be a dragon, sinuous in form, chasing the woman. That's what I believe. You don't have to believe that. I believe that this part is going to be in the sky. That the 7 heads, 10 horns, and royal crowns, these are referenced way back in Daniel, I believe was this part. It might be Isaiah, it might be Ezekiel, but we've already covered it, right? The 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 royal crowns can have a whole lot of different fulfillments, but in this case, it's probably going to be the appearance of whatever is chasing the woman in the heavens. It might be the literal depiction of a woman, right? I don't believe it's going to be allegorical or hidden, but I do not restrict it to merely my beliefs. I have what I am looking for, but I am willing to accept other confirmations. They just have to be bold. They have to, it has to look like a woman running, right? Screaming because she's in labor. Or it can be allegorical for a planet, right? It doesn't have to go around the sun, but it can. It doesn't have to do any of these things, but it can. We will be able to hear what's going on now. If you have been paying any attention at all, you know that I am looking for some severe magnetic perturbations, right? It's going to get extremely turbulent out there in the magnetics realm. We're going to hear a lot of horns, and those horns just happen to sound like magnetics being compressed and manipulated. So I believe that when we hear the screams, that's a real thing too, right? This giving birth, that can be her separating into 2 pieces, right? And one piece goes that way and one piece comes down. All of that can be true. It can be allegory. I am fully understanding that I am speculating here, and this is what I am looking for according to my own beliefs. She gave birth to a son, a male child, who will rule all the nations with an iron scepter. And her child was caught up to God in his throne. And the woman fled into the darkness, where God had prepared into the wilderness, where God had prepared a place for her to be nourished for 3.5 years, 1,260 days. So a male child who will rule all the nations, but is caught up to God in his throne immediately. Right? And the woman flees into the wilderness. So I know that a lot of people, including the man who wrote this book, are looking for this to be Jesus, but it does not have to be. Ruling the nations with an iron scepter has not happened, right? You can talk about it will happen on the return, we will see, but it has not happened in real time. The child was caught up to God in his throne. You can make the argument that that was Jesus at the ascension after he was killed and resurrected. I don't go with that, but you can go with that. The woman fled into the wilderness has definitely not happened. That part, in its entirety, is not a real thing. Now, you can make the argument for the Diaspora, but that doesn't happen for another 40 years after Jesus, right? You can talk about how they're separated into the wilderness, and the woman being Israel, and Israel being not in Israel. Doesn't really fit. It doesn't. You can say that it does, and I am fine with that. But this 3.5 years really throws a kicker into that particular theory. I believe that this is something that we will see in the skies, and that there is going to be a 3.5 year period of seeing this thing until it is starting to affect us. That'll be the seals. And then there will be a 3.5 year period where it's coming in and destroying things, right? Changing the literal earth and the heavens. I believe that. The war in heaven. And then a war broke out in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back. But the dragon was not strong enough, and no longer was any place found in heaven for him and his angels. And the great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was hurled to the earth, and his angels with him. And I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, "Now have come the salvation and the power, and the kingdom of our God, and the authority of his Christ. For the accuser of our brothers has been thrown down, he who accuses them day and night before our God. They have conquered him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. And they did not love their lives so as to shy away from death. Therefore rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. But woe to the earth and the sea. With great fury the devil has come down to you, knowing he has only a short time." This war in heaven, to me, intimates the planets. You don't have to believe that. I do. I believe that Michael is probably one of the planets. I don't know which one, but it's probably the chief one, right? And these angels are messengers of God. Like, they fit in really well with the thought of the planets and the wandering messengers. Doesn't have to be. I think that it will be. I think that this war that breaks out in heaven is going to be this dragon, right, has come after the woman and has been separated from the woman, and the woman goes to the wilderness, and the son goes to the heavens, right? They have been pursued by the dragon, and that doesn't help them. But Michael and his angels fight against the dragon in the heavens. The war breaks out in the heavens, not on the earth, but in the heavens. And I think it will be visible. I believe that there's going to be some static discharge, right? I believe that there is an accumulation of plasma, that there's going to be the sun getting darkened, that there will be an explosion, that pieces will fly off, and that there will be some severe energetic emanations. Think of miles wide lightning bolts with not just a single instantaneous contact and disappearance, but a prolonged contact with the surface of the earth. I believe that that same plasmic discharge is going to happen with the planets. And we will be able to see this war as the dragon is fighting against these planets and changing them, but not destroying them, right? The powers of the angels will be more than the powers of this beast, this dragon in the heavens. And that the dragon losing its power will affect us. Now, whether or not that is a literal falling into us, or if it is the sun blowing up and putting chunks into us, or if it is just pieces of this thing passing by, falling to us. I believe that what is happening here, when the place is no longer found in heaven for him, is the trumpets happening, right? When we see wormwood falling, when we see the destruction of a third of the salt water, right? I believe that that is the same instance happening. After the war in heaven, these things are cast down, and it is the stars that are cast down. It says that it will, wait, did I get to it yet? I haven't got to that yet. Okay. And when the dragon saw that he had been thrown to the earth, he pursued the woman who had given birth to the male child. But the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle to fly from the presence of the serpent to her place in the wilderness, where she was nourished for a time, and times, and half a time. And then from the mouth of the serpent spewed water like a river, to overtake the woman and sweep her away in the torrent. But the earth helped the woman and opened its mouth to swallow up the river that had poured from the dragon's mouth. And the dragon was enraged at the woman and went to make war with the rest of her children, who keep the commandments of God and hold to the testimony of Jesus. And the dragon stood on the shore of the sea. So, now we are on earth. We are no longer in heaven. This woman was put into the wilderness. Her son was taken away into the heavens. So, the woman, say it's Israel, or say it's the church, either one, doesn't matter, is given a commandment when you see this thing to fly to the wilderness, right? Jesus told us that when you see these things, when you see these signs in the sky, flee. Don't take the time to gather your stuff, but instead flee. Now, I am reading time, right? I am reading that we will see things in the heavens and that they are terrible. The time is to flee is when you start seeing them. You will see them the whole time, but when you start seeing them, it is time to go. You need to be in the wilderness because you will be preserved in the wilderness. You will not be preserved in the cities. You will not be preserved on the mountains. You were told to flee to the wilderness, to the place that was prepared. So I am assuming that God has a place prepared, that I will be led somewhere or that I will be dead. Either way, I'm fine. But I believe what is happening here is now on the ground. This is him having a vision about the things to come. And that these people, right, you just had this whole battle, and that there is a casting to the earth, whether that is the plasmic discharge or whether that is chunks of the sun being blown off or whatever it happens to be, that happens. And the earth tilt thing is going to happen. It's going to wobble to and fro like a drunkard. And the sky will realign itself. It will be unrecognizable because the stars will be in new positions. It hasn't been that way in 12,000 years. But it's time. I think that this dragon being cast to the sea is going to be the trigger for that event. I've talked about the event before. We will probably talk about the event again, but that plasmic discharge makes the 90-degree turn for us. It does a reset on our planet where we're aligned. And there is currently a line of hypothesis that when that happens, the waters will flood the earth. I think that what's going to happen here is that the earth is going to assist. Now, whether that is an actual opening of the earth and the waters fall down into it, entirely possible, or whether that is more along the lines of what I'm looking for, right? We're looking for a magnetic flip that is caused by what's happening in the sky, but it happens on the planet. And part of that is the earth, the waters of the earth are affected by magnets, right? The tides are because of the magnetic pull from the moon. You can call it gravity if you want, but it's magnetics. And so what I believe is going to happen is that the water will be prevented from moving in the way that it probably should, simply by magnetics. I could be entirely wrong on that, but you can affect water with magnetics. We have done that. And the dragon stood on the shore of the sea. And then I saw a beast with 10 horns and 7 heads rising out of the sea. And there were 10 royal crowns on its horns and blasphemous names on its head. The beast I saw was like a leopard, with the feet of a bear and the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave the beast his power and his throne and great authority. One of the heads of the beast appeared to be mortally wounded, but the mortal wound was healed. And the whole world marveled and followed the beast. They worshipped the dragon who had given authority to the beast. And they worshipped the beast, saying, "Who is like the beast, and who can wage war against it?" And the beast was given a mouth to speak arrogant and blasphemous words, and authority to act for 42 months. And the beast opened its mouth to speak blasphemies against God and to slander his name and his tabernacle, those who dwell in heaven. And then the beast was permitted to wage war against the saints and to conquer them, And it was given authority over every tribe and people and tongue and nation. And all who dwell on the earth will worship the beast, and all whose names have not been written from the foundation of the world in the book of life belonging to the Lamb who was slain. He who has an ear, let him hear. If anyone is destined for captivity, into captivity he will go. And if anyone is to die by the sword he must be killed. Here is a call for the perseverance and faith of the saints. I have done a study on this before, but my views have slightly changed on that. I wasn't as firm on some of this as I am now. Since we have done the Bible study, we have found out what this is. And if you're unaware, you should definitely go back and watch Daniel. The beast from the sea with 10 horns and 7 heads is exactly like the dragon, right? It has 7 heads and 10 horns and crowns and all of that. And it crashes into the earth. And we do indeed have a religion that worships things that crash into the earth. If you don't believe that, then you've never seen the stone that the complete blank. Where's Mecca? The stone in Mecca that everybody goes and they want to kiss it. It's a black stone. It's mounted into this big building. And everybody wants to get around and kiss this stone. They worship this stone. And you can say they don't worship the stone, but yeah, they do. That stone, in theory, fell from the skies once upon a time. And since then, it has held power. They have the Dome of the Rock by the same people because of this stone where Moses was at one point in time, according to history, even though, no. Or it might have been Abraham. It might have been Abraham on the rock, the Dome of the Rock. It doesn't matter. They're worshiping a rock. It is. Like, they worship a rock times 2, and I believe they're going to worship a rock times 3 because there's going to be a beast that falls from the sky. It's going to be a dragon, falls from the sky. And this dragon that falls from the sky has 7 heads, 10 horns, and it rises from the sea. And the sea is the multitude of the peoples. But we get an identifier here. We talked in Daniel about the leopard, the bear, and the lion, and what they were. It's the Median Persians. It's the dynasty of the Greeks, right? The Achaemenid. I've got it wrote down right here. But Babylon was the lion. The bear is the Persians, and the caliphates are the leopards. So it was like a leopard with the feet of a bear and the mouth of a lion is the continuation of the Babylon kingdom. Not the Roman kingdom. We talked about that extensively in Daniel. This is talking about Babylon. And so Babylon is the Medes and the Persians. It's the Muslim caliphate. In my estimation, that is what is explained in Daniel. And that is what they're talking about here. It was like a leopard with the feet of a bear and the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave the beast his power and his throne and great authority. There is a sign that they are looking for, and it is on every single one of their flags. It is the moon and the star, and they are looking for something to fall from the heavens. And that something that falls from the heavens is going to be this, and it's going to be what gives them the authority. Now, whether that is an actual man or a rock, up for grabs. It could be a literal demon coming down with cloven hooves and all. I do not run that out. One of the heads of the beast appears to be mortally wounded. I have had a vision about this, but I believe that was given to me for a different situation and not necessarily for this. It was just what I could interpret. The mortal wound was healed, and the whole world marveled and followed the beast. This is of the 7 heads of the beast that rises after the dragon falls. So none of this is current because the dragon has not fallen. We do not have the 10 king or the 10 royal crowns for the 7 heads. Now, 7 heads rising out of the sea can be our continents. That is a possibility. 10 horns on the 7 heads could be 10 different kingdoms on the 7 continents. That is entirely possible. The 10 royal crowns can be entirely possible. The the mortal wound can be an assassination attempt upon someone that they survive. It can be what seems like a political death that they resurrect from. All of these are possibilities. Hold all of them open. But until we see the dragon fall from the sky, I am not thinking the beast is here. Period. The end. Right? Until we see the indisputable proof from God. Like if they come out and there has been nothing in the sky, but all of a sudden they say, hey, you cannot buy or sell unless you get the mark. Okay, we're in the end times. But until that point, I am looking for the physical things to see. And the beast was given a mouth to speak arrogant and blasphemous words, and authority to act for 42 months, or 3.5 years. There is a persecution of the saints that lasts 3.5 years. There is a great death that comes. Same thing. The beast was permitted to wage war against the saints and to conquer them. That is important to remember. And it was given authority over every tribe and people and tongue and nation. That is complete worldwide domination. Has not happened yet. We are not there. And all who dwell on the earth will worship the beast. All in this part, I don't think the land needed to be slain. I know that makes me a heretic. I'm okay. He who has an ear, let him hear. If anyone is destined for captivity, into captivity he will go. And if anyone is to die by the sword he must be killed. Here is a call for the perseverance and faith of the saints. Does not mean that you are going to get pulled out of this, that you will not face this tribulation at all. So if you think that you're going to be raptured out and you're going to get out of tribulation free card, I have some hard news for you. It calls for the perseverance and the faith of the saints to either die or go into captivity, or to run and hide. Those are all options. But this is pretty plain and clear. This is telling you without a doubt there will be no rapture again. The beast from the earth. And then I saw another beast rising out of the earth. And this beast had 2 horns like a lamb, but spoke like a dragon. And this beast exercised all the authority of the first beast, and caused the earth and those who dwell in it to worship the first beast, whose mortal wound had been healed. And the second beast performed great signs, to cause even fire from heaven to come down to the earth in the presence of the people. Because of the signs it was given to perform on behalf of the first beast, it deceived those who dwell on the earth, telling them to make an image to the beast that had been wounded by the sword, and yet had lived. And the second beast was permitted to give breath to the image of the first beast, so that the image could speak and cause all who refused to worship it to be killed. We saw typecast of this back in Daniel, but there will be clearly visible signs coming from this representative of the organization, right? I believe that the first beast is going to be 10 kingdoms, probably even all 7 continents with 10 independent rulers upon them. One of them is going to appear to be stricken. But this overall governing system is going to be the beast. And the second beast will be somebody who comes like a lamb and is really a dragon. They are really spewing the wrong things out of their mouth, but they sound really good. They're going to have all kinds of people believe it because they'll be able to perform signs. These signs don't have to be miraculous. They can be caused, like we've seen the entities have these vehicles where they can manifest fire with. So that is a possibility, or it could be completely miraculous. Either one is fine with me, but we have not seen it yet. So there's that. But the second beast will give breath to the image of the first beast. So it will be enacting they will create this system of worship for the beast, and it will be enforced without without having to physically be there somehow. Part of that is this mark, right? But the second beast is permitted to give breath to the image of the first beast is probably somewhat related to these things. And the second beast required all people, small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or on their forehead, so that no one could buy or sell unless he had the mark, the name of the beast, or the number of its name. And here is a call for wisdom. Let the one who has insight calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and that number is 660 and 6. Not 603 score, not 666, but 660 and 6. I did an extensive word study on this particular section, and the three numbers are listed out separately. There is the word for 600, the word for 60, and the word for 6. It is not the Roman numeral. It is not a singular number. It is not anything to do with a score. It is 660 and 6. What that means in the long run, I don't know. You should go look at the other one for the whole correlation to the birthday of a certain president. That's a thing, but it doesn't mean that he was this by any means. But the number of a man is the number of the beast, and you will not be able to have that. You will not be able to buy or sell, eat, or do anything unless you have that number. Now, that's probably going to be your number in particular, right? It's probably going to be 3 digits, something, somehow, I don't know. But somehow or another, you will have a mark. It will be clearly identifiable, and you will have a clearly defined choice. You will not be tricked into it. They will not inject you with something without your knowledge, and you have a mark of a beast. That is not going to happen. You have to accept the mark of the beast in order for it to affect you. Now, if you refuse, you will have a very clearly defined penalty, right? You will not be able to associate with anyone unless you have the mark, the name of the beast or the number of its name. Now, it is important particularly to note that the 660 and 6, when written out the way that it is here, looks an awful lot like the Muslim declaration of faith that they tie around their head. It has the crossed swords and the squiggly and the different squiggly. That is this in Greek. It's inverted and flipped, but it's the same symbology, right? And so it is interpreted to the level of the understanding of the one. Islam was not a thing, and the declaration of faith was not a thing in that time. So this is as close as he could get, in my estimation, to what is clearly visible by the bandana that they wrap around their head. And it contains a name in that, by the way. The name is contained in that, and it is the same one, like the same name that these people deal with. I'm trying to keep this on YouTube, so that's as far as I can go with that. All right. And then I looked and saw the Lamb standing on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000 who had his name and his Father's name written on their foreheads. And I heard a sound from heaven, like the roar of many waters, and the loud rumbling of thunder. And the sound I heard was like harpists strumming on their harps. And they sang a new song before the throne, and before the 4 living creatures and the elders. And no one could learn the song except for the 144,000 who had been redeemed from the earth. These are the ones who have not been defiled with women, for they are virgins. They follow the Lamb wherever he goes. They have been redeemed from among men as firstfruits to God and to the Lamb. And no lie was found in their mouths. They are blameless. This part right here, I don't know how you are going to find a man, fully grown, who has never told a lie, right? No lie was found in their mouths. They are blameless. That could be they are not currently saying any lies, or it can be they never lied. It can be they can never lie, because lying is a stage of development. And that you would have 144,000 people who never told a lie would absolutely have to be a direct work of God. They have been redeemed as first fruits to God and the Lamb, and no lie was found in their mouth, and they're virgins, right? And then I saw another angel flying overhead with the eternal gospel to proclaim to those who dwell on the earth, to every nation and tribe and tongue and people. And he said in a loud voice, "Fear God and give him glory, because the hour of his judgment has come. Worship the one who made the heavens and earth, and the sea, and the springs of water." And a second angel followed, saying, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great, who has made all the nations drink the wine of the passion of her immorality." And a third angel followed them, calling out in a loud voice, "If anyone worships the beast and its image, and receives his mark on his forehead or his hand, he too will drink the wine of God's anger, poured undiluted into the cup of his wrath. And he will be tormented in fire and sulfur in the presence of the holy angels and of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment rises forever and ever. Day and night there is no rest for those who worship the beast and its image, or for anyone who receives the mark of his name." Here is a call for the perseverance of the saints who keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. And I heard a voice from heaven telling me to write, "Blessed are the dead, those who die in the Lord from this moment on." Yes, says the Spirit, they will rest from their labors, for their deeds will follow them. All right, there's a lot here. The eternal gospel is proclaimed to those who dwell on the earth. What is it? Fear God and give him his glory, because the hour of his judgment has come. Worship the one who made the heavens and the earth and the sea and the spring of waters. Something is missing. There is no Christ mentioned here. You can make the argument that the divinity is the same, or the Trinity is. I don't believe that. And so this is, again, despite the best efforts of men, the truth of God coming out. Fear God and give him the glory. He who created the heavens and the earth, the sea, and the springs of water. And then a second angel follows, saying, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great, who made all the nations drink the wine and passion of her immorality." This, in great likelihood, is the United States. I talked before about how I believe that wormwood is probably going to hit us. That is how we are going to fall in a day. It is more than likely going to poison a third of the fresh water. We've already had the poisoning of a third of the waters. And I think that that's what this is. That when Babylon the Great falls, right, we've been reiterating as we come down from Revelation 12, the things that happen in the seals and the trumpets. I think that this particular part is when the wormwood falls. It is not reiterated in that way. It is me making assumptions, but it seems like a reasonable one to me, and I am okay with that. If anyone worships the beast or its image and receives his mark, they will drink the wine of God's anger. If there is a rapture, there is nobody here left for that. You can make the argument that there are tribulation saints who come to know God despite the fact that they have no way of doing that. There are Bibles. They're unrepentant. It says that. If you were not believing before, chances are you're not going to be believing during. But there will be people who will believe in God on this, right? But if they take the mark, it's too bad. I don't know why. I don't care why. I'm not taking a mark, period. Here is a call for the perseverance of the saints who keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. This is not a rapture moment. This is for the perseverance of the saints who keep the commandments of God in the faith of Jesus. You can make the argument for the tribulation saints. I will not. I believe that we are going to be here. What they're talking about here are the ones who fled, the ones who listened, the ones who disappeared from the cities and the mountains. I could be wrong. I am fine with being wrong. I will not know until the time comes. Blessed are the dead and those who die, because it's going to be pretty rough. And I looked and saw a white cloud, and seated on the cloud was one like the Son of Man, with a golden crown on his head and a sharp sickle in his hand. And then another angel came out of the temple, crying out in a loud voice to the one seated on the cloud, Swing your sickle and reap, because the time has come to harvest, for the crop of the earth is ripe. So the one seated on the cloud swung his sickle over the earth, and the earth was harvested. And then another angel came out of the temple in heaven, and he too had a sharp sickle. And still another angel, with authority over the fire, came from the altar and called out in a loud voice to the angel with the sharp sickle, Swing your sharp sickle and gather the clusters of grapes from the vine of the earth, because its grapes are ripe. And so the angel swung his sickle over the earth and gathered the grapes of the earth and threw them into the great winepress of God's wrath. And the winepress was trodden outside of the city, and the blood that flowed from it rose as high as the bridles of the horses for a distance of 1,600 stadia, approximately 184 miles, or 296 kilometers for those of you who cannot measure. So approximately 5 foot deep for 184 miles is a lot of people dying. That could be 200 million. But this is a separate appearance in the sky of something. One like the Son of Man with a golden crown and a sharp sickle. An angel comes out and tells the one like the Son of Man to swing his sickle in a harvest. And then another comes out and he's got a sharp sickle. And then the guy with authority over fire comes out and calls for them to swing their sickle and gather them, and then they press them. They don't burn them, even though he's got authority over fire. They make them bleed. They press them until they bleed. And then I saw another great and marvelous sign in heaven, 7 angels with the 7 final plagues, with which the wrath of God is completed. And I saw something like a sea of glass mixed with fire, beside which stood those who had conquered the beast and its image and the number of its name. They were holding harps from God, and they sang the song of God's servant Moses and of the Lamb. Great and wonderful are your works, O Lord God Almighty. Just and true are your ways, O King of the nations. Who will not fear you, O Lord, and glorify your name? For you alone are holy. All nations will come and worship before you, for your righteous acts have been revealed. Another marvelous sign in heaven, 7 angels with the 7 final plagues. Right? Something like a sea of glass mixed with fire. I think that that's going to be the galactic current sheet, the actual wave, whatever it happens to be. And it will be, again, a clearly visible thing. We've had the catalyst come through, maybe 2, right? The woman was 1, the dragon is 1, and now we're getting the final, right? I believe that this is going to be something that is visible. Again, something that we see. It's probably coming with fire. After this, I looked, and the temple, the tabernacle of the testimony, was opened in heaven. And out of the temple came the 7 angels with the 7 plagues, dressed in clean and bright linen, and girded with golden sashes around their chests. And then one of the 4 living creatures gave the 7 angels 7 golden bowls, full of the wrath of God, who lives forever and ever. And the temple was filled with smoke from the glory of God and his power, and no one could enter the temple until the 7 plagues and the 7 angels were completed. Okay, now again, we're dealing with things happening in the sky and apparently on the ground at the same time, right? The tabernacle of the testimony was opened in heaven. Again, that leads me right back to the ark and what we have talked about before with the ark being an electrical discharge device. I think that's what happens here. Dressed in bright and clean linen is bright, right? Salt girded with golden sashes, that can be lightning. It can be the plasmic discharge. It doesn't have to be. It can be physical entities, but in my estimation, it is probably the plasmic discharge. The 7 golden bowls full of wrath, we will be getting into as we get into 16. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this one up. I know I hold some unconventional beliefs. I know that I tend to step on toes as I deliver this, but even though it is not intentional, I do not apologize for that. I am merely doing what I am being told, and God knows how to stop me. He has done it before, and I'm sure he will again, but this is not getting stopped. This is all speculation. Anything in the book of Revelation has to be speculation because it has not happened yet, despite what some people apparently believe. All of these things, in my estimation, have to be clearly identified, right? We have to be able to say, oh yeah, that was it, and not just a person or a couple of people, but the vast majority of the people have to agree that's God. That is the fulfillment of this. It cannot be just a few people believing that. I believe that there are clearly identifiable signs that we will see when the bottleneck comes. I don't believe it's the final judgment, but I do believe it is a reshaping of the earth. I believe that the physical things that are listed are probably true. And so I know it's a little bit different than what you're used to. I don't believe that you have to have had a sacrifice to be forgiven of your sins. So that part of it I dismiss. I do. I'm okay with that. He was interpreting the prophecy to the best of his ability. He was doing the same thing I'm doing. Now, he may very well have been divinely inspired by God and me not. I'm okay with that. I believe that God has shown me what he has shown me about these things so that I can tell you. I don't have to convince you. I just have to tell you. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm telling you. Hopefully I brought a little bit of enlightenment and not too much confusion to a very complicated topic. I understand that this is completely different than anything else, that other people do not see it this way. I am perfectly fine standing by myself. To the crew, thanks for hanging out. I appreciate every single minute that you were here with me, and I am praying for you every single day. Until next time, I love you. God loves you. You are perfect, whole, and complete just the way that you are. And this has been Pitt State. Peace.